Hey guys, okay, we're working on this 1998, I believe, Yamaha Big Bear 350 4x4. So what's going on is we've got some sort of metal grinding, squeaking, weird sounds coming from the rear end. And I'm pretty certain it's the U-joint. So the U-joint in this thing is located in that tube right there, which comes off the back of the transmission and heads to the differential. And well, pretty much the only way to get to it is to take this whole axle and differential assembly off the transmission, which is a lot easier than it may sound or look. So all I've done so far is just put it up on the crane here or hoist, just get up off the ground, took the wheels off, and next thing we're going to do is disconnect some of the linkages there, and then we're going to get to the bolts behind these little cover plates right here that hold on that hold basically that whole assembly onto the frame. So let's get to that. Okay, so we just got to loosen this boot here. There's a big C or sort of like a gear clamp, but it's just a screw. That comes off. Okay, now we'll get to those big bolts. Be easier if we get this out of the way. And yeah, 6 mil for that. similar, just a locking mechanism. Pull this whole thing out of the way. Okay, so I honestly don't know for sure then if this U-joint is bad. The grinding sound we're hearing, I'm not sure. It did sound like it was coming from this way backwards. I just don't know if it's a transmission. I just tried spinning the differential. I don't hear any grinding in there. I mean, mind you, there's no load on any of this, but it is, I'm glad we did get in here because we do have a leaking rear main seal type thing. Basically it's the seal that comes out of the transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and order that part at least, and the first thing we will do is take this U-joint out, and I'll just order another U-joint. We'll put it all back together because it's a pretty quick, I mean, it looks complicated like I said, but it's actually not. So we'll replace the U-joint, replace the seal, put it back together, and we'll see if we still have that grinding sound. Okay, so unlike most cars, the clip for these U-joints is on the inside. So we'll just remove those if we can. Oh, there goes one flying. I'll show you that in a moment. There's one here. There. They just go around just to hold your U-joint in place. Got the C-clips off, and I'm just pushing the U-joint now, this one, through here. So I've pushed it through by pushing on the bottom there. I pushed it through, and now I can remove the cap. There's the bearings in there. They actually don't look too bad. And then I'm just going to push it back down through in order to get the other cap off. Okay, I found this press. I'm going to see if I can use it for this application. Just so I'm not hammering down on it. Yep. And these we can just press out on the bench. Okay, so we're just going to pull this rear seal here. Should just pop out. Go. Okay, also just wanted to show you pressing these out. So I found this sort of pull tool or push tool that I've had, and if I put it right about there, I can actually use it to push these bearings. It's a little awkward when I'm in place, but it does a pretty good job. 5/8 wrench on here. So I'll make sure the clips are off, push that through. Sometimes it gets a little cockeyed, but you can just adjust it. These usually aren't in there that crazy tight. When I'm online buying my parts, I might see if there's a tool meant specifically for ATVs and UTVs for this job, just to make it a little easier. Okay, so I got that there, and then I think you can just grab it with the channel locks. One. And then put the tool back on here. Make sure I'm on the end. Just adjust the clamps there so they're out of the way. Go like that. Yeah, I don't think there's actually anything wrong with this bearing. Looks perfectly fine. Just too bad, but whatever. We're in there. I'll get a new one. You know, it's only like 25, 30 bucks. And we'll replace that just so we don't have to go into the back end for a while. Okay guys, so we're back at it. It's been about a week. Just waited for parts to come in. So this is our rear oil seal. There's a part number there. You can just pause the video. And I went ahead and actually did, and I didn't do a video on this, but I'll do a video of putting it back together. Did the front U-joints, which are these two right here. Well, those are the yokes, but the front two U-joints I took out. I'm also going to be replacing the oil and filter. So the little filter here. Again, I went ahead and did this, but just putting it back together, I'll show you how to do that. 10W40 synthetic, some nice stuff for it. And yeah, these are the part numbers for the U-joints. And, oh no, sorry, this is the kit for right here, which is that one spot I was worried about. In hindsight, I think it's probably fine, but we're just gonna replace the seal and the bearing in there anyway. This is just that arm that sort of pivots on those back pins. So we'll replace those as well because we're in here. So I ordered those, and all of these are from All Balls. So there's your part number for that. And then we've got the rear universal joint. And then the two front ones, these two boxes are the same. So this is your front universal joint. You can get these all Yamaha genuine, but I mean, these ones are probably better and they're cheaper. So I guess we'll start with the back end, get that all back together, and then we'll work on the front U-joints and the oil change. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is put our new seal in. So there it is there. I'm going to put a little bit of this ultra black gasket maker around the outside, just to kind of hold it in there, because it actually doesn't go all the way in. It just needs to go till it's flush with this surface here. So we're just going to put a little bit on the outside, like I said, just to make a nice seal and to hold it in place. Whether it was there before or not, I'm not sure, but this will definitely help out. You don't need a lot, just a very small amount. And I already cleaned this with brake cleaner, so I'm just going to spread around. Okay, and I think this can mostly be pressed in by hand. Like I said, we just want to go till we're flush with the aluminum plate there. It's looking pretty good. Just gonna get a rag. Okay, that looks good. And should be a nice seal around the outside. And any of you that are wondering, basically all it's doing is it's just sealing the engine compartment, the oil in the engine compartment, to this sort of face right here. And you can see hopefully where the old seal was riding is that shiny spot right there. So you just want to make sure that it ends up being in the same spot. That's why you don't press this thing right in against the bearing. And this will go on and it'll seal a lot better than before. So the biggest thing that I noticed, and the reason it's leaking, you know, you look at a seal, looks perfect, but the old seal, right where the actual sealing point is right here, it was actually flattened out a little bit, whereas this brand new one here comes to almost a point. So you can tell how it's going to wear a little bit, and then eventually just make a nice seal around that. So next up, we'll put our yoke back in and put the bolt on here. Okay, so we're just going to put our washer on and our nut, which is a locking nut, so it doesn't have to be on there death grip tight. But I will use this impact just so, because it's spinning as you do it. And that should be all you need. Like I said, it's a locking nut, so as long as it's on there, you're good. Okay, so we're going to put our U-joint into the yoke here. It comes with a few grease fittings. It comes with a capped one, comes with a 45, and a 90-degree one. So I think we're going to use the 45 one. You can use the capped one if you think there's going to be interference, but I think we'll be okay here. So I'll just screw this one into here. And I'll put it so it's pointing to one of the corners. So like that, so that we can get a grease fitting on there. I mean, we'll only be able to grease it once before we put it back together, but it'll be good to fill this up with grease. It already has grease in it, but it'd be good to fill it up. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of just axle grease in the yoke here. I pulled our caps off the end of the U-joint, and I'm going to start one in the one side, like that, and then I'm going to put the U-joint, actually put it in like this, into that cap. Make sure your needles don't fall. Then I'm going to put this one in the other side, again making sure it goes, this goes in. This, and then we're going to use the vise to slowly push it together. You want to make sure this is always pivoting as you're doing it. And we're basically just pushing it enough that we can get the clip on. So what we may need to do is just get a socket that fits that size. And just help us push it that last little way. So we'll get that clip on. And then we just need to push this one in a little bit more. We got our clips on there. Okay, so we're going to put the U-joint onto the machine now. And There is a tool for doing this, but I don't think we need it. I'm going to start the one up here. Put in our other cap. Actually, these are almost, yeah, these are just pushing in by hand. So you don't even really need a tool. Maybe just for this last little bit, I'll use the clamp so I can get the C-clamp on, or the circlip it's called. Okay, we should be good there. Oops. Right, and the other one. Okay, so that's on. Everything moves freely. No grinding. Feels tighter than the old one. So that's good. And actually what I might do is I'm going to fill the machine with oil right now. I think I'm going to start it up and run it to make sure we don't have an oil leak there before I put all this back together. So let's do that oil change right now. Okay, so for an oil change, which I already tipped the oil out, but I'm just showing you how to put it back. So this is the drain plug from the bottom. It's a, what we got here, 19 millimeter. Got an O-ring right here, and then this spring sits in there with this cup and all that. Okay, back at it here today, guys. So I realized after I showed you the drain plug going in, the camera died and didn't even get me putting on the filter or filling up with oil. So I mean, pretty simple process. It would have been nice for you to see the whole thing, but basically all I did was behind this sort of oil cooler line unit here, there's 3 hex bolts. So to get to the filter, you'll remove those, and behind that is the oil filter, and this is the old one right here. So behind that is this, and it only goes in one way, which is this way towards the machine, because there's a tab that will only allow it to fit into this hole, and it won't go in that way. So that's sort of like a pressure, one-way pressure valve there. So it goes in like that, and then you replace that cap, and I'll show you in the manual actually, so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. It looks like that right there. So basically there's the thing you're just looking at, there's the filter, it bolts on, and if you guys need it, I'll just kind of go through these 3 pages here. So basically, yeah, fill it up with oil right here. It takes about 3.5 liters or so when you do the filter change, and then basically you just fire the machine back up, let it run for a couple of minutes, and then you come over to here, and there's a oil gallery bolt. So this bolt right here, you're gonna just loosen that, and you just gotta ensure, put a rag here, you just gotta ensure that oil comes out of that, and that just tells you that basically you have oil pressure and oil's pumping into the head here. And also just, it doesn't say to do this, but I just check to make sure that the oil cooler is in fact getting oil, so you can tell that because the one will be hotter than the other, and you know that there's flow going through. So with that, I guess we can move on to putting this back on the back. We're going to replace those bearings in the arm here, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall it on the machine.
Okay, so next thing we gotta do, we gotta get these races out. And I mean, probably the best way is we need to have something to actually grab onto with this puller here. And there's nothing back there to actually grab onto, so just keep slipping off. So we're gonna put a bead on here, a welded bead on here, so it's something to grab onto, and hopefully it'll make it pop out of there. So that worked well. Just basically I put a bead on there so you can get your tool onto it. And you might be saying to yourself, well, why didn't I just push it through this way? This cap obviously will be replaced. It goes in there. And you somehow, if you could use it to push it out, but like realistically, how do you get any kind of striking device in there to push that out? And you can't do it on this side, so we're going to do the same thing on this side. There's no way of accessing the back cap on this thing, so you have to pull that bearing race out like this. So we'll do that again on this side. We're going to install our new race, a little bit of oil, put our cap in, start this square as you can. And we'll get a piece of hardwood. And the nice thing about what we did with the old one, with the weld, is it actually shrunk the diameter of it, so you can use it to push in the new one. And basically you're just going to push it in until your cap back there doesn't move around. That's how you know it's tight to the back. Just fill this bearing up. And then we'll put our new seal. and it just goes flush with the casing. Just like that. Okay, so we're gonna put the rear end back onto the drive shaft. So I've got the drive shaft actually in there, and we're gonna put it onto the yoke pulley. And so I'm crank this out. Okay, so I'm onto the drive shaft because I'm spinning the wheels and the front one's spinning. Make sure our boot goes over. Now, we're going to put our shock bolt on to help us hold this. Okay, now we just got to put our pins in. So totally forgot to put these in. We'll get those in now. They go on the other side of our pin bolts there, our swing arm bolts. Just gonna pull out the old O-ring. These new ones in. Tighten all the way. And then this one we're just going to tighten and then lock down just so it keeps the bearings in place. so you gotta want to seat the bearing. Okay, so I'm just putting this big clamp back on to hold the boot on. Okay, there we go, that's on. Okay, so I'm just about to put the swing arm lock nut bolt back in, or on. And basically it's down on the wheels. And I'm just gonna back it off a bit so I can see what the tension's like, and then go back in with it till I feel just a little bit of tension. Nothing crazy. I don't have the spec on this, but about like that, just so it compresses the bearings a bit. And then I'm just gonna check the spacing at the back. So if you can see, there's a bit of a gap there, and it's a similar gap over on this side. So everything's moving nicely. I can move it side to side, there's no movement, so I think that's a comfortable spot. I can put the lock nut on now. Okay, there we go. All right, so what do we got now? I guess we're gonna move on to the front universals. I probably won't show putting all these like steps and stuff back. It's pretty straightforward. We'll move on to the universal. Okay, so we're gonna put the same 45-degree recirc in. And then we want to make sure it's oriented in the machine so that it's pointing towards the, well, if it's the front universal, it's pointing towards the middle so I can get my grease gun on it. Pull our caps off. Okay, so there's one done. So this one will be the one that goes in the front, so that when I pivot it, I can still get the grease circ on. And actually, I might adjust it a little bit here. Just turn it like that. Now when it's in the machine, I can get my gun on.
Okay, so same thing on the machine. Caps off. And I'll just use that socket. There we go. Okay, so this goes quite a bit better with the front right wheel off. So I just took that off. Go. Okay, now we just got to put our drive shaft back on. Okay, so drive shaft's going in. So this is the drive shaft. Basically, it's gonna be hard to show you this in place, but basically it goes into the differential side right here, and then because you can slide it back and forth, you can slide this end into the engine side, and then once everything's in place, the spring goes up here, washer, and then C-clip, and holds everything in place. So try my best to show that. Okay, there we go. And that's held in place with that clip. Make sure it's seated. Okay, we're good to go. And then mine, yours might have a guard here that bolts onto this bolt right here, but we took ours off. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let's take it for a spin, make sure everything's good to go. Okay guys, so yeah, I just took it for a test drive there and I'm still hearing like a sort of clattering in the back end. I just cannot locate where it's coming from. So I mean, everything in this back end is new. The only thing I didn't replace when I worked on the differential last time right here is there's a needle bearing that the input shaft rides on. I just didn't change it because it looked fine to me when I replaced all the seals and bearings in this thing about 2 years ago, but it might be on its way out, and just the way it sounds, the sound is sort of traveling up the tube. I think that might be what it is, but I think I'm just going to keep riding it as it is. It's not like the loudest sound in the world. I mean, it's probably not great that it's doing a little bit of damage to whatever bearing it is, but I gotta let it get worse so I can, you know, positively know which bearing it is. So that'll be another video. I hope this video did help anybody out that has a universal joint issue or just wants to see how the back end of these machines comes out. It's similar to like the Hondas and different types of bikes. So hopefully it helped you out. Thank you for